officials from the Department of Tourism mentioned that our beaches are all in order. And we know yesterday, which is Boxing Day, there were thousands of people in our beaches and there was no parking. So we're attracting a lot of tourists, and there's a lot of economic development taking place in the north coast of KwaZulu-Natal. Now, these developments obviously going to yield response to unemployment, but at the same time, are the public confident that we're turning around and our service delivery is going to improve? So I want to introduce our guest, my co-host for this evening, Sumaya Khan, who is also a presenter in School Matters and Youth Frequency. And she joins me regularly in News in Focus, because Sumaya kind of is a civic activist and she wants to become a politician as well. Sumaya, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And thank you for joining me once again this evening.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you for having me.
Okay, one of my colleagues back in the days in the 1980s in the eThekwini municipality, a very verbose individual, Hanif. He hails from the south of Durban in Chatsworth, and he used to attend these meetings and wasn't afraid, to raise issues and attack opposition parties. Hanif, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to another forum where you're not discussing service delivery with me, but you're discussing the state of poor service delivery nowadays.
Yeah. Shukran, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Shukran for the opportunity. It's always lovely to have a conversation with you because you have a history of knowledge in the city. So somebody who can actually speak with confidence about how things worked then and how they work now. So we appreciate it.
Yeah, I remember when you used to raise issues, I had to defend the council those days, Hanif, but we also delivered. So it was a two-way thing. But politics, generally, people would like to look for faults, and rightfully or wrongfully, it used to be raised, and we were able to defend because we knew exactly which direction we are going. But what I'm going to do, Hanif, is I'm going to take another nasheed break. Some listeners prefer 1-2 nasheeds before we get on to the real business of this evening. So we'll take a nasheed break, and then the azan. Inshallah, after that, we'll have our discussion.
Ya Rasool Allah, Ya Habib Allah, Aka, 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 پھر کے گلی گلی تباہ ٹھوکر صبر کی کھائے کیوں دل کو جو عقل دے خدا تیری گلی سے جائے کیوں رخصت قافلہ کشان غش سے ہمیں اٹھائے کیوں رخصت قافلہ کشان غش سے ہمیں اٹھائے کیوں سوتے ہیں ان کے سائے میں سوتے ہیں ان کے سائے میں کوئی ہمیں جگائے کیوں پھر کے گلی گلی ٹھوکر صبر کی کھائے کیوں دل کو جو عقل دے خدا تیری گلی سے جائے کیوں یاد حضور کی قسم غفلت عیش ہے ستم یاد حضور کی قسم غفلت عیش ہے ستم خوب ہے قید غم میں ہم خوب ہے قید غم میں ہم کوئی ہمیں چھڑائے کیوں پھر کے گلی گلی تباہ ہو کر سی کھائے کیوں دل کو جو عقل دے خدا تیری گلی سے جائے کیوں وہ جو نہ تھے تو کچھ نہ تھا وہ جو نہ ہو تو کچھ نہ ہو وہ جو نہ تھے تو کچھ نہ تھا وہ جو نہ ہو تو کچھ نہ ہو جان ہے وہ جہان کی جان ہے وہ جہان کی جان ہے تو جہان ہے آقا 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 کی کھائے کیوں دل کو جو عقل دے خدا تیری گلی سے جائے کیوں ہاں جان ہے عشق مصطفیٰ روز فضوں کرے خدا جان ہے عشق مصطفیٰ روز فضوں کرے خدا جس کو عدید کا مزہ جس کو عدید کا مزہ نازے دغا اٹھائے کیوں پھر کے گلی گلی تباہ ہو کر سب اکھائے کیوں دل کو جو عقل دے خدا تیری گلی سے جائے کیوں ہے تو رضا نرا ستم جرم پہ گئے لجائے ہم ہے تو رضا نرا ستم جرم پہ گئے لجائے ہم کوئی بجائے سوز غم کوئی بجائے سوز غم سازے طرب بجائے کیوں پھر کے گلی گلی تباہ ہو کر سی کھائے کیوں دل کو جو عقل دے خدا تیری گلی سے جائے کیوں
This October, Tayo Raham in the sacred city of Taif embark on a life-changing Umrah group tour with World View Travel. Guided by renowned spiritual leader Maulana Muhammad Vanker. Experience 2 nights in Taif, 4 nights in Mecca and 5 nights in Medina. Luxury hotels, daily breakfast, round-trip transfers, ziyarats, internal flights and visas. Call 031-001-7062 or 071-835-0216. Follow us at Worldview Travel. Worldview Travel creates memories to last a lifetime.
Africa.
For too many communities across Africa and the world, access to clean water remains a dream. At Africa Muslims Agency, we dig deep, reaching into the heart of the earth to fill the cups of those in need. Sponsor a water well for 16,500 Rand, or a borehole in Afghanistan for 55,000 Rand, or Africa for 65,000 Rand, or any amount. With water comes food, health, education, and growth. An ongoing reward with Africa Muslims Agency.
Elevate your style with Al Noor kurtas and fragrances from Potent Eyes Perfumes, exclusively available at Al Ansar Shop. Visit us at 207 West Road or call 031-208-1601. Experience the best in fashion and perfumery. Al Ansar Shop where elegance meets fragrance.
تمنا ہے شہروں کا سردار دیکھو مدینہ کی گلیاں وہ بازار دیکھو جہاں بھیج دی رب نے جنت بنا کر حبیب خدا کا وہ دربار دیکھو ترستی ہیں آنکھیں جنہیں دیکھنے کو وہ گنبد وہ جالی وہ مینار دیکھو غموں میں گزاری ہے یہ زندگانی خوشی کے وہاں دن میں دو چار دیکھوں صلی علی سیدنا صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم تمنا ہے شہروں کا سردار دیکھو مدینہ کی گلیاں وہ بازار دیکھو جہاں بھیج دی رب نے جنت بنا کر حبیب خدا کا وہ دربار دیکھو ترستی ہیں آنکھیں جنہیں دیکھنے کو وہ گنبد وہ جالی وہ مینار دیکھو غموں میں گزاری ہے یہ زندگانی خوشی کے وہاں دن میں دو چار دیکھا سیدنا صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم.
This azan is sponsored for the Isale Sawab of Marhum Muhammad Farooq Lateeb and all Marhumeen. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant them the highest abode in Jannah. Ameen.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت محمدا الوسيلة والفضيلة والدرجة الرفيعة وابعثه مقاما محمودا الذي وعدته وارزقنا شفاعته يوم القيامة إنك لا تخلف الميعاد.
This dua brought to you by Simplex Radio, South Africa's leading retailer of appliances, car sound and home theater systems.
Having a clean, comfortable home is every homeowner's pride. That's why Khan's Chemicals have developed and manufactured prime yet affordable quality household brands. Starlight, Miracle Mum, Exterminate and Angie to care for your home and family. With a wide range of fabric softeners, dishwashing liquids, bleachers and all-purpose cleaners, pine gels, bubble baths and much more. Khan's Chemicals ensures your home remains our number one priority. For sales and other inquiries, call 011 933 4021. Khan's Chemicals, cleaning your home the way you want.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to News in Focus live on Radio Al Ansar International, broadcasting on the frequency Durban 90.4 FM, Peter Mansberg 105.6 FM, and streaming on www.alansar.org.za. Before the news break, I just introduced our guests for this evening and the topics. I thought let's get our nasheed breaks behind us and our ad break, so we got full 25 minutes of chatting with our guests this evening. Later on in the program, our political analyst Samuel Kennedy will join us, and he'll be chatting more about some of the key issues that have come up in the Madlanga Commission interim report. Now, before that, I'd like to chat with Hanif Hussain. Hanif is a DA mayoral candidate for Durban for the forthcoming elections, which is likely to take place in November, if not January, but likely in November. He's also a member of the DA's Executive and Management Committee, a lot of experience in politics. I mentioned that the municipal crisis, Treasury freezes funding for 75 municipalities, and what the National Treasury Department is mentioning, that since September 2025, the National Treasury issued 2 circulars outlining its intention to invoke Section 2162 of the Constitution and Section 38 of the Municipal Finance Management Act of 56/2003. These measures permitted the withdrawal of LGES, which supports critical municipal functions. Now, the South African Local Government Association has called on National Treasury to immediately release the local government equitable share tranche for 75 municipalities across the country. Now, there's reluctance on the part of Treasury because of maladministration and various problems relating to service delivery in the various municipalities. Now, Hanif, the Democratic Alliance has clearly announced that you're going to be the mayoral candidate. You've worked in eThekwini municipality as a councillor for a number of years. Okay. And you've noticed the serious decline in the last 25 to 30 years. Now, we know the nature of local government elections. It all depends on the number of wards that a particular party wins. But the terrain has changed recently with the government of national unity. Where at a national level, government has taken the decision to work not as a coalition, but as a collective government with the other parties, the other parties that have got material number of votes. And we know that has also been applicable in province. More recently, we know that in KZN province, the party that holds the majority of the votes is MK, but they're not the controlling party at the province of national unity, and there were steps or attempts to oust the premier, but that failed. So there's a lot of unity, and the province and the government of national unity has got as their main agenda improvement in service delivery. Now, how do you envisage the DA performing in the forthcoming local elections, and how confident you are that the DA will, be successful in achieving that mayoral position, not only in eThekwini municipality, but in other municipalities? Because our listeners are listening. They're concerned about the DA stance on Palestine. Setting that aside, they are paying rates and taxes because they want service delivery, and they cutfall about the state of service delivery. So for the purposes of our listeners out there, how do you think your party is going to perform going forward in the next elections, which will culminate in them having a positive say in their determination of a mayor for these municipalities?
I think it's a great question, Yunus. And I think what the best way for me to explain it is to actually put the facts and the evidence on the table, because, politicians will never speak poorly about their own prospects. They always speak highly about it. And every political party that will come before you in this studio will tell you that they're going to win the elections, and then they end up with one seat. So let me rather give our listeners some facts and evidence that they can use to make their own determination, instead of me saying we're going to be the largest party. The first thing that I want to point to is the overall mood in the country. I think is a genuine feeling in the country, in South Africans overall, across the racial divide, that they've had enough. Simply had enough of the corruption, maladministration, mismanagement, lack of accountability, lawlessness. And South Africans are yearning for change. And when you say that they're yearning for change, and this is the lived experience of ordinary South Africans. So when we know that South Africans want change, it will be change to what, from what. And that's a fact. And in the South African political landscape, in the country nationally, the two biggest players are the ANC and the DA. There are other players, but smaller at a national level. Closer to home, there was a by-election recently in Ward 64, about 3 months ago. And the large majority of voters who live there, the estimate was about 70% of them are black middle-class South Africans. And it's a ward that we never anticipated that we will win. We won with an overwhelming majority. And ever since I launched this campaign around 26th of September, I cannot tell you the number of people, by scores of them, people who we never dreamt would support the DA, are starting to say, look, we've had enough and we want to help. People who were openly critical of the DA, constantly attacking us at a national level for whatever reason, are saying, you guys are the only hope. And I think that if the listeners have conversations with people in their social circles, in their family circles, this is the experience that that they also have. Then the last bit of evidence that I want to give you is we conduct quite a bit of polling as well. And our support levels are obviously on an increase. But let's look at what the independent polls are saying. The independent polls are putting the ANC in eThekwini less than 20%. If they get to 15%, they're lucky. And that's not based on a thumbsuck figure. If you take the last election result, which was a national election result, and you convert that to a local government elections, you will discover that the ANC only got 14%, 1-4, in the last election, in eThekwini. In the previous local government election, the ANC never won a majority here. They got to about 42 or 45%. It was the other smaller political parties that put the ANC back into power.
That was excluding MK's involvement then also.
Yes, excluding MK's involvement. So the current government is on its way out. And the next available option then is naturally the DA. And that's what's going to turn out in this election. So the truth of the matter is, without me giving a political answer and a factual evidence-based answer, is there's no question about it based on the current trajectory, the current evidence before us, and the facts before us, is that the DA is going to be the largest political party in the next local government election. What percentage it is could be anybody's guess. But our estimates are that we will get very close to 50-odd% in the next local government election here, because the ANC is on its way out. A large percentage of former ANC supporters have now just changed the color of their T-shirt from yellow to green and become MK supporters. But not all of them have moved to the ANC, to the MK. And so there's a large chunk of former ANC supporters who say it is time for change. And I think those are the guys that's actually going to help us to get probably closer to the 50% mark. But there's no question about it. The DA is going to be the largest party in this election. And there's only two possibilities. Either we get beyond the 50% and we are able to govern entirely on our own, which is what we would prefer, so that we can effect change much faster, or we form a coalition with other like-minded parties. But the voters have that choice, obviously. Ultimately, it's going to be what the voters decide. And if people want to see the change that they want to see, they're going to have to vote for that change, obviously. It's not going to happen by me sitting in the studio and telling you this is what the turnout's going to be like. But that's the estimate.
That's quite a confident answer. Sumaya, I think you were raising the issue that one thing is to have a political change and have a new mayoral candidate.
Exactly.
But that might not be the recipe for improvement in service delivery. And you want to raise a very important question.
Well, we're fully aware that municipal debt in KZN is like, what, 61 billion?
Yeah.
61 billion. With the bulk overdue far beyond normal payments, and threatening cash flow and service delivery. Now, I'm going to get to the point. I got questions from a normal citizen on the road, the common man. These are the questions they want answers to. And if you can assist as someone who's involved on the ground, regardless of which political party you come from. We know that a normal man on the street questions, why are so many KZN municipalities broke, yet their officials are still taking such large amount of salaries every month?
That's very true. So Yunus was talking about National Treasury holding back money.
Yeah.
And I think the intention behind that is good. But in practice, you are punishing the voters and the people who pay the rates, but you're allowing the officials to get away with their lack of delivery.
Okay.
Because municipalities are run daily by officials. You know this, you've been operating for many years here, Yunus.
Yes.
The politicians give the direction and they set the program of action. The officials actually implement it. So when you have a budget that has been passed that says these are the things that you must implement and you don't implement it, where's the accountability for those officials who haven't done their job? And so when National Treasury holds back that money, ultimately, it's the residents who suffer the consequences.
That's so true.
And so there has to be much more accountability for people's officials' failures and their inability to do their jobs. People are getting away with blue murder in this country, literally. There is no accountability. You spend these millions and millions of rands on commissions, you get outcomes, but you don't get implementation and accountability. People are not held accountable for their actions.
Exactly. When municipalities receive grants, since you mentioned that, where exactly is the money going when services are still collapsing? That's a question the common citizen on the street wants to know.
I think that most of citizens know where that money is going, actually. It's going into people's pockets. And I want to give you an example. The Tigweni municipality has got this program, what they call a poverty alleviation program. They spend 180 million rand a year on it. And their argument is that we will give people stipends to clean up the streets, cut the grass, sweep the roads, clean up the rivers. And they've got thousands of people on this program, and they pay them amounts of about just 2,000 rand or something a month to work 8 days in the month. But have you seen any of these people cleaning streets anywhere in our city? Have you ever seen anybody cleaning a stream or a river in this city? And it's the reason why there's so much of debris in the oceans, is because nobody's cleaning the streams. Where is that money going? And this is only just one example. I can give you examples until midnight tonight and probably keep you busy until tomorrow. But the system is rotten. And it's the fish rots from the head.
You know, you chatted about accountability. Who is held accountable when municipality gets a qualified or disclaimer audit, names, not titles? Who's accountable? No one, if the buck is passed.
Constantly. And I'll tell you, this is a shocking picture that I'll give you. 257 municipalities in the country. Of that 257, only 41 of them have clean audits. And I don't want to drive politics on your radio station, but the truth of the matter is that the majority of those municipalities with clean audits are DA-run municipalities. And Yunus is not rocket science. It's about using the money for its intended purpose, employing the right people for the job, hold officials accountable when they fail to do their job, don't steal. You know, if you just apply those 4 principles, you'll be able to turn things around so quickly, as was done in Umgeni municipality. You know, Chris Papas, when he took over that municipality, was completely bankrupt. There was no money in the account. They were owing ESCOM and all sorts of things. And in 4 years, by applying those basic principles, today that municipality is the best run municipality in the entire province. And then I don't want to go on about Cape Town as well. People already know that. And then you've got Midvaal municipality. And there's so many examples like this. And that's the kind of governance we want to bring to Durban.
You mentioned in the break, Hanif, that your party has taken action against the Tekwere municipality in the promotion of certain officials to positions of executive director. And you not only mentioned that the process has been flawed, but these are the officials that failed the municipality. And we know the state of water losses and water outages. And one of the heads of those departments is now promoted as executive director, not only to become the executive director of that department, but service delivery departments like human settlements, engineering services, etc. And there were 1 or 2 other appointments that also were problematic. So other municipalities promoting, officials that are not delivering. And exactly, if you become mayor, how you plan to sort this problem out?
So I think my fight with the municipality is a matter of principle. And it's about applying those basic principles. Yunus, if you've got a business and you want to employ a manager, you want the best that you can get for that money. Because you want to employ somebody who's got the experience, who's got the capability of doing the job, and he must demonstrate to you that he's performed really well in his previous jobs, right? That's the basic principle you'll apply. And a city should do exactly the same thing. But let me tell you the background on the story. Excuse me. What I said earlier is that if you want to run a city, you want to employ the best people for the job. People who are passionate and committed to doing. And Yunus, you can relate to this. You were there in the municipality many years ago. And I can testify to say that when we approached you personally in that particular department, no matter what we could try to get you to do the wrong thing, even if we wanted to, you would not even change your mind. I remember a specific incident where you were trying to enforce the bylaws when people were erecting illegal structures in council dwellings. And you guys put your foot down and you said, we want those things out. And I, as the public rep at the time, as a councillor, came pleading to you to say, man, these guys are running a little tuck shop and allow them to please operate. And your answer was, this is against the law. You applied the rules, regardless of who it was. And that's why things ran well back then. But now what you have is you have the politicians who have used the entire system as a fiefdom for themselves by appointing politically connected individuals who they can control to do as they wish. So let me give you the example of why and the reasons why we went to court. And I just want to use two of the 3 examples. In the case of the head of Tigweni Water and Sanitation, the gentleman, Mr. Ednico Nsweli, I have nothing personal against him, but my fight is about the principle. And the record of performance over the last 5 to 10 years, the Tigweni municipality loses almost 60% of its water every year. You and I are paying for that, right? It gets wasted into the ground, literally. So our bills are twice the amount that it should have been. The Auditor General has made adverse findings against that very department. There's about 80,000 water meters in the city that show a 0 reading. The Auditor General has pointed out that that department has failed to provide basic water services, basic stuff. And so when the municipality advertises a position which is a higher position than what he holds currently, they decide to appoint him. The track record is poor governance. The track record is incompetence. The track record is irregular expenditure. And so you appoint an individual like that to an even higher position with an even higher salary. And 2 or 3 days after they've appointed him, they come to municipality, to the council, to say, we want to increase his salary by another 1 million rand. He's already earning about 3 million. It's the point that you're talking about, Sumaya.
So basically you're saying corruption is the main problem. It's not incompetence, but it's protected by politics.
It's controlled. The politicians are not employing officials based on their ability to do a job. It's about on their ability to see how amenable they are to control. And as I was using the example with Yunus, we don't have that any longer.
Yeah.
We used to have the city manager, Eddie Morton. And that guy was just very strict. Politicians shall not instruct officials. It's in the code of conduct. If you think that is operating today, it doesn't work like that anymore. The politicians are taking direct instructions from officials. Officials are taking direct instructions from the politicians. I want to just go back to the other person that we were trying to object to in court, and that is a gentleman that they want to appoint as the head of Metro Police, actually public safety, which includes Metro Police and emergency services. In that particular instance, the minimum requirement for that position was a BA law degree. And this gentleman doesn't have that qualification, but yet they see fit to actually appoint him into that position. And, for people who have been following the Madlanga Commission, you would have heard how the chief of the police in Ekurhuleni Metro, the irregular appointment of him that was happening there. What we're trying to do here, the difference, is to try and prevent it from happening. There it's already happened and they're finding out now. We're trying to prevent it. And that's why we went to court to say, we don't think that it's a reasonable decision of the municipality to appoint these individuals based on what we're saying. But beyond that, there is a set of regulations that govern the appointment of these staff, how you actually appoint them, the recruitment process. And there's very specific timelines and deadlines and so on. So to give you an example, that they had to do the shortlisting and the selection panel within 30 days. They've done it like 90 days later, So it's all of those.
Even procedurally, they were flawed.
Procedurally, and that's what we're challenging.
Where does this matter stand in court? Is it still to be heard?
Yes, it's coming before court on the 18th of February. We've had
so in the meanwhile,
agreement.
These guys are holding those positions.
Well, in the meantime, they've made the appointments. Just to give you one other example, the regulations say that if the council appoints you on, let's say, the 1st of January, the municipality and the municipal manager cannot conclude the contract with you until the 1st of the new month. So you kind of have that space, So you literally there must be a gap, a window period at least. If you think they respected that window period, the council took the decision on the 13th, on the 15th, 2 days later, these guys signed the contract hurriedly, very quickly. What's the purpose of that? See? So they don't even follow the regulations.
So these were political appointments. That's what you're saying.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's the situation. And so we're serious about running the city. We're serious about governing the city. And what we don't want to do is to wait for the election results to come and then fight these appointments. We want to do it now, so that by the time we get there governing the city, that there'll be an opportunity for us to put competent individuals in place and get the city working again. Let me just be clear about something, Yunus. What we cannot have in our city any longer is to continue with the employment of the people who destroyed the city. Those who have destroyed the city and brought it to its knees must be the ones who must be held accountable. We can't have a situation where you change the government, but you got the same official. That does not express the will of South Africans if they want a change in government. So as far as I'm concerned, that there needs to be a reconsideration of the entire top structure of the city. And I'm not saying that everybody must go. What I'm simply saying is that based on your performance and your ability to do the job, that must be the determining criteria, not what your relationship is with political party. We're not going to appoint officials who are close to the DA.
Now, I think we got 1 minute left for the news break. And what you're alluding to, Hanif, is the fact that you're going to need a kind of restructuring going forward of the top structure of municipalities to ensure you've got competent officials. And you may have to run parallel structures because you cannot talk about improvement of service delivery until you change the delivery arm.
Absolutely.
So we'll unpack that after the news break. We take a break for the news.
Listen to News in Focus on Radio Al-Ansar, Durban 90.4 and Petermaritzburg 105.6 FM every Wednesday from 8 p.m. with Yunus Sacoor. That's 8 p.m. every Wednesday. Radio Al-Ansar, keeping you informed.
Welcome to Simplex Radio. Visit our showroom for the full range of car audio. Our TV department carries top brands with quality LED panels, full HD to Ultra HD, and now the experience of Super Ultra HD. Visit our theater rooms and transform your home with brands like Onkyo, Integra, Denon, Boston Acoustics, Yamaha, and more for quality audio visual experience. Now available, full range of home appliances. A one-stop shopping experience. Call 031 306 4029 or Kenilworth Park, 202 Brickfield Road, Overport. Simplex Radio, the name you can trust.
An informative Islamic global perspective. This is Al-Ansar News.
Making news this hour, 17th of December. The news from Durban, 90.4 FM, Petermaritzburg, 105.6 FM. Brothers get life sentence for murder. America Monina. 2 brothers have been sentenced to life imprisonment for murdering a man they suspected of damaging a fence on their sugarcane field in Hlilwe area. National Prosecuting Authority says the sentence should serve as a warning or deterrent against vigilantism. Ngagoba Gina and Olisi Kumali were sentenced in the Mtubatuba Regional Court for the murder of Sandile Gumede, who was killed in November last year. Natasha Ramkisson of the NPA National Prosecuting Authority says the brothers demanded that Gumede fix the fence, but he refused. An eyewitness later intervened and advised them to take the dispute to a local traditional leader. They ignored his advice and instead resorted to assault Gumede. Report says that Gumede was taken to hospital where he later died. An eyewitness told the court that Gumede was attacked so severely that his entire body was covered in severe wounds. The court sentenced both brothers to life imprisonment and declared them unfit to possess a firearm. More news. Eteguni Mayor Cyril Klaba says child safety remains one of the city's top priorities as families flock to Durban's beaches this festive season. Klaba did a walkabout on the beachfront yesterday, one of the busiest days on Durban's beaches, known as the Reconciliation Day. He said that the municipality has distributed over 200,000 identification armbands to help reunite children with their parents should they become separated in large crowds. The mayor said the armband, the name of the child, the name of the parent, as well as a cell phone number has to be written on it so as to locate parents when a child is lost. The mayor said he is impressed by the size of the crowds at Durban's beaches, adding that he is confident the city will attract over 1.3 million visitors during the season. In other news now, Home Affairs Minister Leon Schreiber says South Africa will not allow people to abuse the immigration laws of the country. Schreiber made a statement after 7 Kenyans who were granted tourist visas were arrested after they were found to be working in Johannesburg. He has dismissed false reports that American officials were arrested during a sting operation. Meanwhile, Schreiber said none of the 153 Palestinian travelers who had landed at the Tambo airport last month requested asylum in the country. One news now. Parts of KwaZulu-Natal are expected to be struck by storms later today. Disaster management teams have been placed on high alert in anticipation of the severe thunderstorms forecast for the areas in western, Midlands and northern parts of the province. The South African Weather Service has issued an orange level 5 alert. Weather forecaster Hlanhla Stole says the thunderstorms may be accompanied by heavy rainfall. A level 2 warning has also been issued for the coast and adjacent interior. Areas that could be affected are eThekwini, Rheinkoyeni, Umlalazi, Zumbe, Mhlatuze, Ndwedwe, and a host of others. Stole says they may experience severe thunderstorms accompanied by severe downpours, damaging winds, excessive lightning, and hail and large hail. And finally, at least 2 Lebanese have been killed and 5 others injured in 2 separate Israeli airstrikes targeting vehicles in southern Lebanon. An Israeli drone strike targeted a car on the road between the towns of Makaba and Majoyun districts of southern Lebanon, killing 1 person. Also in a separate attack, yet another Israeli drone hit a pickup truck in the Sebling area around Mount Lebanon coast, killing 1 person and injuring 5 others. Your weather, it's 25 degrees. A quick reminder of our top story. 2 brothers have been sentenced to life imprisonment for murdering a man they suspected of damaging a fence on the sugarcane field in Khilwe area. That's the news.
Get ready to elevate your fitness game at First Fitness in Durban's Berea. With a spacious free weight area, award-winning equipment, and exclusive ladies-only parking and training level, we've got everything you need to crush your goals. Hit the ground running on our outdoor track or unleash your inner warrior in our MMA and boxing dungeon. Plus, enjoy high security and ample parking. And don't forget to refuel at our halal coffee and health restaurant for the best in coffees, smoothies, and healthy eats. Join us today and redefine your fitness journey. First Fitness, dare to be extraordinary.
Color your world with Color Trade Paints. Color Trade Paints, stockers of interior and exterior coatings. We got you covered with our wide range of roof colors and are stockers of industrial floor coatings. A Color Trade innovation, the 4-in-1 primer must always be your first choice. Magic Cover PVA, 99 Rand per 5 liters. Peach, cream or white. Restore your driveway with high durability jet black tar coat, 690 Rands per 20 liters. Get to a Color Trade Paint store near you or visit our e-store. Call 086-126-8888 for free delivery. Make the right paint choice. Always ensure color before trade. Buy Color Trade Paints.
There are over 200 million orphans globally. We can't help all of them, but what if we each helped just one? The Al Imdad Foundation now gives you an opportunity to help just one orphan from Syria or Palestine. For just 500 Rand per month, you can help safeguard the dignity of an orphan by assisting them with basic needs such as food, clothing, shelter, medical care, and attention. Our orphan sponsorship program allows you to track the progress of your orphan through regular feedback. Make a difference in the life of an orphan today. Visit alimdad.com or call 0861 786 243 for more information.
This segment is brought to you by Kenfield Auto, your RMI approved service and repair specialist. 236 Brickfield Road, Overport.
Kenfield Auto. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. ربنا فاغفر لنا ذنوبنا وكفر عنا سيئاتنا وتوفنا مع الأبرار.
Car won't start?
Kenfield Auto.
Noisy brakes?
Kenfield Auto.
Due for a service?
Kenfield Auto.
Kenfield Auto, the answer to all your car problems. Your service and repair specialist for your VW, Audi, Suzuki, Toyota, or just about any vehicle. Kenfield Auto, your RMI and insurance approved workshop to handle them all. 236 Brickfield Road, Overport. Call us on 031 207 2399. Kenfield Auto.
Durban, the fiesta has arrived. Step into the brand new muchachos at Westville Village Market, where flavor takes center stage. Bite into Mexican-flavored flame-grilled chicken, loaded quesadillas, cheesy chimichangas, fiery fajitas, and crunch-perfect nachos. All crafted for that bold Mexican kick. Bring the family, bring your appetite, and taste the fiesta at 123 Jan Hofmeer Road, Westville Village Market. Muchachos Westville. Fresh, fiery, unforgettable and Sana certified.
The Sufi Sahib family and Muhammad Jusub of Atomic Demolishers invites you and your family to the 133rd Urus Sharif of Khaja-e-Khajigan Khaja Gharib Nawaz Hazrat Sufi Sahib and Hazrat Shah Abdul Aziz Sufi Dadajan from the 19th of December till the 25th of December 2025. Sunday 21st December Miladun Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam program starting at 10:30 a.m. Quran Khatam, Naat, Mankabat, lecture, Zohar Salah, Niyaz, lunch will be served.
The views and opinions expressed by the guest and presenters of Radio Al Ansar are not necessarily the views and opinions of Radio Al Ansar and the Al Ansar Foundation.
Allah, 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 Allah,
تنہا ہوں میں اور انتہا لاکھوں تنے ہیں سامنے بیٹھا ہوں میں مایوس کن آئے نہ کوئی مجھے تھامنے اللہ اللہ تو میری سن لے صدا حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير معیوب ہوں تیرا کرم پردہ رکھا عزت بھی دی بڑھ کے دیا اوقات سے دولت بھی طاقت بھی اور وقت بھی کر دے خطا ہر معاف تو فہرست اسیاں کو چھوڑ دے اللہ اللہ تو میری سن لے صدا حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير رنگینیوں خود غرضیوں میں ہے گزاری یہ عمر ہے آرزو بس کہ یہی کر دوں تیرے نام شام و سحر تسکین دل حاصل کروں رخ اپنی جانب تو موڑ دے اللہ اللہ تو میری سن لے صدا حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير لب پہ رہے ذکر و دعا اور تجھ سے میں ڈرتا رہوں کر کے عمل قرآن پہ جنت کی راہوں پہ چلتا رہوں خدمت کروں اسلام کی پچھتاوے کا غم توڑ دے اللہ اللہ تو میری سن لے صدا حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to News in Focus live on Radio Al-Ansar International, broadcasting on the frequency Durban 90.4 FM, Peter Marisburg 105.6 FM, and streaming on www.alansar.org.za. Before the news break, we had an interesting discussion with mayoral candidate, DA mayoral candidate Hanif Hussain, and he was chatting briefly about the vision of the DA in terms of municipal elections and some of the areas of concern in the various municipalities, including at Tekwani, where the DA has lodged an objection to certain senior appointments and the reasons given thereof. And the issue of how to really improve the administration and the political management of the municipality is the crucial part of our discussion. And as part of our discussion, I think Hanif mentioned that no point having a new political party in place or having a coalition when your officials are the same old guys and they don't have a vision to deliver and improve service delivery. That's one area. The other area is consequential management. If there is any underperformance or lack of performance and there's maladministration and there's corruption, action needs to be taken. So there are challenges in changing senior officials, starting from the city manager, but that's what happens when there's a change in the political structures. Now, I know, Sumaya, you want to come in because obviously your concern is that there are certain key departments in the municipality that are failing service delivery. So perhaps, Hanif, you want to come in and perhaps advise our listeners that it's not a dream as such, it's a reality. And having to face this reality 1 year down the line, our potential voters and our ratepayers and taxpayers want to be confident that if there's a change, there's going to be a serious improvement in service delivery. So how do you envisage making those changes? Because if that happens, you can't sit back and say that it's going to be business as usual and we're going to have to cope with the existing setup for another 12 months only to find that there's no improvement. Hanif?
I think that it's the easiest way I can explain the answer to that question is, what does the public expect from its city government? I think that the public expects that a department responsible for service delivery must do what it's paid to do. People pay a lot of rates in the city.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not cheap living here when you have to consider the amount of electricity and water and rates and sewer.
More than half your salary goes in those expenses.
And, you know, people pay it begrudgingly, but they expect that things must work in return. And I think that is the starting point. Of course, the issue about the bills is another story. I mean, we do have a billing crisis in the city where people are being charged things that they're not supposed to be paid for.
You spent hundreds of millions on the billing system that has failed us.
That has failed. I mean, I had a call from a lady the other day. She's 80 years old and she's sitting with a bill of 25,000 rand. She says, I'm living here by myself. And how do I get a 25,000 rand bill?
Well, we had a query on our sort of WhatsApp line the other day of a lady that said, I got a bill of 300,000. When she went there, they dropped it to 100,000, but still that's a lot of money.
Still a hell of a lot of money. And then they have the nerve to say, we're going to give you a 50% write-off. 50% write-off of what?
Of 150,000, and the lady is earning 3,000 a month, and
I send you the wrong invoice, and then I give you a 50% discount on a wrong invoice. I mean, that's mad.
Or maybe the meters haven't been read, and the guy just was drunk, and he put the wrong numbers there.
But that's the most common thing when you think about it. In the surrounding suburbs, pensioners who are living on their own are getting bills, as you said, 30,000, 80,000, and when they try to query it, municipality can't assist. Found those numbers. And when you go, it said, pay it, we'll deduct it. Now, where are they going to get that money?
If they don't have it.
Exactly.
And this is part of my problem that I have with the city, in that your billing for elderly folk, in my view, should be based on what your affordability is. It doesn't make sense that a person who's living on a state grant of 1,800 rand a month, that person has to pay a bill of 3,000 rand. Where are they going to get the money from? So what you're doing is that you're creating a rod for your own back, and you're creating a debt that would never go away. It's the reason why the city has got 40 billion rand owed to it that they're unable to collect. Because A, there is a billing crisis, they're charging people the wrong amounts, and B, they're charging people money that they're never going to be able to afford in the first place. The problem that you have is they've had this 50% write-off recently. And firstly, the problem is you're writing off amounts that people actually don't owe. The second thing is that there are officials and councillors who are actually on that list who are owing money to the city. Why should they be getting a 50% write-off? In my view, that those are not qualifying individuals. It should be people who actually genuinely cannot afford it.
Do you know, like as we are aware, like everyone knows, municipality has a problem. We said KZN 61 billion with the bulk overdue from, far beyond the normal payment periods. And then when we look at the grants for infrastructure and service improvements are often underspent, I don't think so, or mismanaged most probably, and weakening the ability to deliver basic services such as water, sanitation, and the roads. A couple of districts stand out, like Umzinyathi District Municipality. You know what I'm going to tell you? 1.4 billion. Is that the truth?
Well, I think that we have a problem with local government in the entire country. It's the reason why Cyril Ramaphosa had said that DA-run municipalities are best. Because and that's the one time I know he's telling the truth, because it is factual. But Sumaya, the contributing factors to poor performance in municipalities is the appointment of poor, incompetent officials.
Exactly.
It's a huge contributing factor. And if you just apply a basic business principle of getting the right people for the job, a lot of these problems will go away. You heard Yunus talk earlier that the Treasury wants to hold back the amounts of money, that the grants that they want to give it to municipal, that they're holding it back. It's because those officials weren't able to do their job in the first place, and yet they're still in their jobs.
And they're still getting paid the large salary.
And they're still getting paid. So I think that entire system has to change.
Do you know, like the citizen out there, if they know why it matters, the basic needs like water, sanitation, roads, refuse removal, and electricity planning, when they are financially unstable and poorly managed, it directly affects our quality of life and the public trust in governance. And now that is what it boils down to the citizen, to the common man on the road. A lot of them say, why must residents pay for services that municipalities fail to deliver? And why must residents take charge of cutting their lawn or the hedge or municipality? Exactly, coming out of their rates. And these are in suburbs, which you never got it. How do we answer to the public?
I think that this has been a problem for a number of years. And if you think about it, our police services are not as efficient as we would like them to be. And that has given rise to security companies. So because we don't get the safety and the security that we expect from South African police services, we then pay additional monies to employ a security company to protect us and protect our neighborhoods. Then let's look at education. Government institutions are falling apart. So what do we do is there are private institutions that we have to pay extra so that we can get a good quality education for our children. Then let's talk about health. Our government hospitals, nobody wants to go there because you go there, you're going, after that you must know where you're going, to Kabristan after that. So what have people done is they've invested in their own healthcare and have to pay private medical aids. And now you're starting to see it at a local government level where people have given up on their municipalities actually being able to cut the grass and keep the streets clean and do the things that needs to be done. And now you've got these UIPs that are starting to come up. And so the sad reality is that people are tired, man. They're tired of what's going on in our country. You're paying more, but you're getting less. And you have to pay additional amounts for your children's education in a private school. You have to pay additional amount for now your healthcare, and you have to pay for your security company, and you must pay for your rates and electricity. For what reason? And now you've got these UIPs that are starting to come up. But I tell you what, Sumaya, I can sit here and I can complain about things for as long as we can talk.
Yeah.
The power lies in the hands of the people in the city.
They have the final say, their decision of who they vote for.
And I tell you, I don't plan to hurt or insult anybody. But the truth of the matter is that we get the government we deserve. And for far too long, too many people from our communities have sat back and they've said, what must we vote for?
But that's the common day expression currently, because next year is 2026. There's going to be elections.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't want to vote. Does it make a difference? Let's look at sanitation and water. There's areas in KZN which haven't had water coming out of their taps, or they just get it for 1 hour. And they have been protesting, still nothing. Who do they turn to? And this is becoming, as I said, normalized. It's like becoming like, oh, we expect it, there's nothing we can do.
I tell you, Sumaya, protesting is not going to change your government.
Yeah.
Protest at the ballot box. That's what we must do. The WhatsApp groups, complaining on the WhatsApp groups, is not going to change our future. You have to vote to change the government to build a better city. You sit at home and you do nothing. Nothing's going to change. And so if there's ever a time that people must get involved, is when things are going bad, actually. So the question that voters ask themselves, what must we vote for? It's all of these things that you have to vote for. Because I ask you and I ask our listeners out there, for how much longer are we going to allow other people to determine our future? How much longer?
Exactly. Since you are talking about change, so if nothing changes, why should communities or the individual trust local government at all? Now that's the mentality or the attitude. And do we really blame them?
I tell you, you can't blame anybody else but ourselves. If you allow somebody to abuse you, you can blame nobody else but yourself. That's a fact. And that's what our government is doing. They're abusing us. And people are saying, why must we vote? And that, for me, just drives me absolutely insane. Because we can complain all we want. And that's why, Sumaya, the shocking statistic I want to share with you. In the Indian community, of all the people who are actually of voting age, only roughly 50% of them are actually registered to vote. And of that 50%, only 50% roughly turns out to vote on election day. So just only 25% of the Indian community, and I'm highlighting that, actually have a voice. The other 75% are folding their arms and saying, what must we vote for?
So basically, the person who's listening to us right now and they're in this situation, what do you say to a family that has no water for weeks but still received that bill? They need to vote.
My appeal to South Africans is this. You have only one choice to change the direction that our country is going. If every single forward-thinking, mature, level-headed South African says, I've had enough and I want to do something about it, we'll change this government overnight. Because the power is in the hands of people. If people sit back and do nothing, then nothing's going to change. And that's why wherever I go, I encourage people to say, please go register yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, just go straight onto the IEC website. It takes you literally 2 minutes. Go into the IEC website, you can scan your ID, you can become a registered voter. It's that simple. Previously you had to go to an IEC office. Now you can do it from the comfort of your own home. And it's so important that people do that, because you and I can have many of these conversations, and I know people are listening, and I want to give them a sense of hope. And that hope is help is on the way. I'm committed to changing the direction of the city.
So in one sentence, who has failed us? KZN municipalities or politicians or officials or the system itself?
The system.
The system.
But the system is designed by the people.
Yeah.
The system is designed by the people. And may I remind you that in the last election, this government did not get for 50%. They got 40-something percent. The ANC lost the election.
Yeah.
But it was the small parties who actually put the ANC back into power. And that's a hard truth that many of the small parties must answer later on in the campaign.
Do you know, all of this also affects, now we're in December, next year is 2026 local elections. It affects tourism, and looking at KZN, I mean, honestly, looking at it, we are not very pleased. So the impact on economic development and tourism in 2026, you know, we're looking at investor confidence at risk, tourism vulnerability. Tourism is not just leisure. So, you know, can KZN afford political instability when its economy depends on tourism, trade, and investors' trust? Because a lot of people will be pulling out
Well,
of KZN and taking it to another province or out of the country.
It's a good question, because you remember not long ago we had the MK riots in our city, in our province.
A lot of shops never even open after that.
Many of them never opened. We lost lots of jobs. People lost their jobs. Businesses shut down. But there's also another contributing factor towards tourism, and that is our beaches.
Yeah.
And the municipality, unfortunately, over the years have failed to maintain our sewer infrastructure plants. And that's why we have sewer flowing into our oceans, because the sewer is overflowing in these plants that they're actually not working. And so it goes into our rivers, into the oceans, and our oceans are full of E. coli. The other day, the Tigweni municipality issued a statement that all the beaches are safe and open.
Is it?
3 or 4 days later, the UKZN did testing of the waters, and they produced a result that shows all of the beaches has very high levels of E. coli. And so I would trust what the university says, because they've got no interest in this matter, and they just report on the facts. And it's sad that the municipality is doing what they're doing, and I think that they're deliberately misleading people about the quality of the water. When you have independent professionals who do testing on a regular basis saying that the water is unsafe, actually. But that has made a massive contribution to our tourism.
Yeah.
I raised this issue in Parliament a few years ago when I first highlighted and raised this as a serious concern. And I said to MPs, if you are planning to come to Durban for the holidays, please don't come to our beaches, because this is the state of our oceans. And since then, the tourists have disappeared. I mean, what we're seeing now on the 16th of December, and first, those are not tourists, those are visitors. That's South Africans who are visiting from other. And of course, they are very, very welcome. But what I want to see is dollar tourists on our beaches, like we used to. I want to see those tourists who are actually bringing euros and dollars into our city, because that, for me, actually contributes to our economy to a large degree.
Now, when you look at it, everything marries into each other. So infrastructure is falling down, municipalities fell down already, and then that has an effect at tourism, because now you are going to a place. If you look at our local beachfront, it's shocking. It's quite disappointing. I know you made a reel about a statue. What was it? 20 million?
22 million.
22 million rand. When that money can be used into something else. And then it comes into tourism. When you look at it, you know, economic growth needs stability. Tourism needs safety. Safety is so important, and development needs functioning municipalities. So without fixing local governance now, 2026 may arrive with fewer jobs, fewer tourists, and deeper inequality. It filters down to that.
Absolutely. I mean, you have to get the basics right first.
Yeah.
And the video that I did about the 22 million rand statues on the beachfront speaks to exactly that. We have to first fix what's broken. Our sewer system is broken. Our water system is broken. We have 600 informal settlements in the city. The highest in the country is here, in the city that I want to lead.
Yeah.
I think those are the urgencies that need to be dealt with. We have roads that are falling apart. Our community is unsafe. People don't even walk on the streets any longer because they're afraid they're going to get hijacked. So crime is a huge issue. Those are the areas that we have to spend every single cent to get those things working. Not build statues that's not going to add any value to people's lives. And it's just beyond me that you have a city that would actually invest money in things that actually don't matter. Now they want to build a 1 million rand amusement, 1 billion rand amusement park on the beachfront. I mean, the only thing amusing is the fact that they actually want to do that. When you have these massive problems in our city, I would take the billion and invest it in the informal settlements that are having a massive impact on people's property values. And because, of course, nobody wants to see informal settlements in our city because it's a reflection of the degradation of the city.
Exactly.
And we all want to see people living in dignity and build proper housing. Use that money and invest it for the things that really matter. Not building statues and amusement parks. I mean, what are we going to do with a seesaw and a foofy slide on the beachfront? I mean, that's not going to change people's lives.
A lot of people think tourism is just for leisure, but it's not just leisure. Tourism, I mean, it supports informal traders, transport operators, accommodation, hotel staff, and local artists. And it creates employment for thousands of people. Now, when we are not getting people coming into our country, what's happening? Unemployment. And with that comes people are desperate, crime. So crime goes up in KZN. Safety becomes an issue. I wouldn't want to come to KZN for a holiday because every year we tend to hear stories of a tourist on the beachfront in probably North Beach or South Beach got stabbed or something like that. So safety and international news travels quite far.
It's true.
So again, I think our leaders need to realize, our officials, I mean, they know it, but again, they are worrying about themselves, that everything has a ripple effect and it filters down again to the common man and the simple vote.
I think part of the problem is that we have a leadership in our city that doesn't have a vision of what they want to do with Durban. I want to give you an example. In the UAE, in Dubai, for example, and Qatar and other places in the UAE, they're building oceans, if I can put it to you that way. They're building beaches. And when they build those beaches, it becomes a catalyst for development around that water zone. Because water naturally attracts development. But yet here on our city, we have a coastline from Tongaat in the north to all the way in Amkumas in the south. We have the best weather, the best terrain on the beachfront. We have the huge amount of investment potential. But the city is not developing that. They're building seesaws and foofy slides on the beachfront.
That
just doesn't make sense to me.
Exactly. When you think about it, political shutdowns, as you mentioned, the riots and municipal failures scares investors. No one wants to invest. And what are we doing now to restore confidence before 2026? Is it going to just be a show, a canvas? I got that vote, and after that, I'm not doing anything. I think that's when the citizen, the fear of not voting, it doesn't make a difference. But again, voting is so important.
It is critically important because you can complain all you want. You can sit down and complain for months on end and for years on end on WhatsApp groups and on social media and to your friends and your neighbors, and you can curse and swear and do what you wish. Nothing's going to change.
Exactly.
Nothing's going to change if you don't change it yourself. Because as I said earlier, we all get the government we deserve. And if somebody does not participate and doesn't vote in an election, they actually don't have the right to complain.
Exactly.
Because when you have a choice to change your own future and change the future of the city and you do nothing about it, you have nobody else to blame but yourself.
So basically, these are our views and opinions. We are not telling you to vote for Hanif's party, but our main intention is what he's telling you. Do your vote who you want to support and who can make that difference. What is your plan to protect major events, beaches, game reserves, and heritage sites from destruction, disruption? Because that's the trend, especially in KZN. Everything is just being destroyed.
It's
billions of rands. Just now, that statue will be broken down.
It's every single department. I mean, the Auditor General has found in eThekwini, for example, 4 years ago, the irregular expenditure was 700 million. 4 years later, it's 4 billion. The city is falling apart because of poor management.
Accountability.
The beaches are starting to fall apart. every department is dysfunctional. There isn't a single department I can tell you in the city that's operating on all cylinders and really performing well. You try and phone the eThekwini municipality for anything, it takes you forever to even get the phone answered. You send an email and nobody bothers to respond. There isn't a culture of service in the city any longer. There used to be a time, not long ago, we used to have the telephone directory, and in the back of it was these yellow pages, and it had the telephone number of every single department. And when you call it, somebody used to answer the phone. And you complain about a street light that's not working, and a day or two later you'll find a truck outside repairing the street light. You don't get that any longer. There used to be a time when you should physically see people sweeping the streets.
The culture now is completely different. And again, we as citizens have accepted the fact, nothing's going to be done. And that's why I would say, especially KZN, what a beautiful province, is rotting. Jobs and the youth rely on tourism for income and money, and many others. If tourism numbers drop further in 2026, who takes responsibility again? Politicians or officials?
Well, as I say, that we have a political leadership in our city that doesn't have a vision. Yeah. Tourists go to a place for a very specific reason. What does Durban have to offer? Currently, what do we have to offer? Nothing, actually. It's the reason why we have so few international flights arriving in our city. It never used to be like that. Sumaya, do you know there was a time that Durban used to have more tourists than Cape Town?
100%, I remember.
And that wasn't a hell of a long time ago.
Yeah.
What has changed? It's the direction in which the city has been moving. We can turn that situation around. It can be turned around. But it's entirely up to the people of the city if they want it to be turned around.
When Mr. Sacoor was here, we were talking about the hierarchy, how it needs to change from the official down, going to the next hierarchy, the next peer, and the next level. And as you said, the fish rots from the head.
That's correct.
So it's a lot of cleaning up to do in KZN.
Well, it's not impossible, and it won't take a long time. I gave you the example of how Umgeni turned itself around in 4 years.
Yeah.
And so once you set the city on the right trajectory, it will get better every single day. But it has to start with that change. Because I tell you, if we leave this city in the hands of this government for another 5 years, we must all leave this city forever.
Or the country.
It's going to get worse unless we do something about it. And that's why I say help is on the way. But people need to help ourselves as well. And we need to take ownership of what's going on. And people have to get registered, and they have to get involved in the elections and change the direction of the city. Exactly. And it's possible.
So basically, you just mentioned it now, what 3 measurable actions will your government deliver in the next 12 months to rescue tourism and economic growth?
Well, the first thing I want to do is to make sure that we employ competent officials, people who are capable of doing the job. You will be employed in my administration based on what you're capable of doing, not what the color of your skin is or not how you pray. That's not going to be the determining factors. Not by the language you speak or the color of your skin or the religion you belong to. It must be based on competence and whether you're capable of doing the job. The next most important thing for us, is to fix what's broken. Get the water system back on track again, reduce the water loss, fix the sanitation infrastructure, get our blue flag status back so that our beaches can get, the status that we need to get the tourists back. And we need to fix this building crisis because it's becoming more and more unaffordable for the people in the city. It's the most expensive city to live in, actually. Our rates is extremely high. The cost of electricity and water goes up every single year without fail. And people can no longer afford it.
100%.
But it can be cheaper. If, for example, we fix the water system and we fix the pipes that are broken underground, you'll be saving 60% of the water that we're losing. 3 billion rand. Let me just repeat that. 3 billion rand is wasted every single year because of old infrastructure. Who do you think is paying for that?
We,
the residents, have to pay because somebody has to pay for it.
Yeah.
So the city bills us for that 3 billion rand every year, which they have to pay to Umgeni Water. You can save 3 billion rand so quickly by just fixing the water system.
So basically, for everything that is stolen, everything that's corrupt, everything that's broken and not being fixed, if the money or that grant money for that specific item or road or infrastructure is not done, so they just bill us more to take the money from us.
That is correct. And if people look at their water bills, they'll see there's an additional surcharge.
Yeah.
The city has raised an additional surcharge that people must pay for, which money is supposed to be used to fix the water pipes, but they're the ones who destroyed it in the first place.
Yeah.
And the residents must pay for this. Those are the things that I want to change in the city. We cannot continue like this where we are abused and punished by the people who are earning millions. And they spend the money like it belongs to them. We must spend the money like it belongs to us.
It's our country.
And do it the right way. Fix the water infrastructure so we can save people money, reduce the cost of electricity, get the rates down. The reason why the rates is so high is because the cost of running the city is so high. The reason why the cost of running the city is so high is because the corruption is so high. Because a lot of the money is being siphoned off, going into people's pockets, and we have to pay for that. And so every year, without fail, the rates goes up, and it's making it more and more unaffordable for people. Sumaya, there's 4.5 million people who live in the city. There's only 300,000 ratepayers. That's not a sustainable picture.
Yeah.
We have to get more people contributing to the pot.
Exactly.
It can't be that there are people who are getting free services who can't afford to pay.
So it's so important that we vote. So I think listening right now, you out there, our listeners, you go choose your party, see who can provide that service for you and make a difference in our province and country to do that. And if something which our listeners are waiting to find out, the fight in Parliament, the MK, you are a politician, the MK party shut down, the political protest. So let's unpack this a bit. Just a little brief thing. The MK party shut down. Political parties have the right to protest, but when a shutdown disrupts daily life, the economy, schooling, and access to healthcare, everything takes a toll. We must ask, is this democratic expression or does it cross into intimidation? So there is political, social, and constitutional implications, So when you think about it, what is the purpose of a political shutdown? Is it right? Is it incorrect? Is it following the constitution?
That's not what the public expects from politicians and political parties.
But that's the way it's going in our country.
And it's the voters who must punish them. Because if we sit back and watch people do what they do and get away with it, they will continue doing it. I was there at the legislature in the gallery when this was going on. In Pietermaritzburg. And it was absolute chaos. Absolute chaos. But I'm not surprised by that because that's exactly what MK represents. You had the MK riots in our city. You know how they destroyed the country and they destroyed our city. Now you've got MK misbehaving at the provincial level. At a government level, they are the people who we expect to put our futures in their hands. And if that's how you behave in a parliament, can you imagine what South Africa will become if you allow those people to get to manage the government?
For our listeners out there, this was, on social media, it was just going wild. Reels were being posted from Parliament. It was kind of disgusting and embarrassing. The MK party tabled a motion of no confidence against the Premier, Tammy Ntuli, who is an IFP leader. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yeah. In KwaZulu-Natal, provincial legislator arguing the provincial government was failing on service delivery. Well, they make sense there. And governance and leadership. But the whole manner of which it was done, the demand for a secret ballot, and all of that. Can you tell us, since you were there, what went down?
So the rules of the legislature give the speaker the authority and the power to decide how a vote must be conducted. And the decision that she made, which I believe is the correct decision, was to allow for transparency.
That's Ms. Boyce.
Yes. And kudos to the speaker because she's a very courageous woman and she's from the ANC.
Yeah.
But she's strict, she's down the line, and she applies the rules as they should be. And when MK didn't get their way, well, that's what happened. And that's purely because they didn't get their way. And Sumaya, we've seen this kind of behavior happen with the EFF in National Parliament. I mean, I used to sit right there in Parliament when the EFF used to misbehave like the way they did. But where is the EFF today? They have lost almost 80% of their support.
Exactly.
Because if they built their reputation on chaos and MK wants to build their reputation on chaos, then they move in the same direction. Voters don't like that. And they're put off by that. And MK is going to be taught a lesson by their voters as well. But I want to put this message out to the public, and that is, there is that danger that whilst the ANC has disappeared and the ANC is losing power in the city, that the MK is hot on our heels.
Exactly.
And there's only going to be two options in this election. Either the MK is going to run the city, or it's going to be the DA. And the voters are going to decide who that's going to be.
For the citizen out there and for the voter, where should the line be drawn between strong political protest and disrespect for democratic institutions? Now, that is a very thin line.
It's a very clear line. It's not a thin line.
Yeah.
It's a very clear line. The public expects politicians to behave in an acceptable manner. They must be held to a higher standard than ordinary South Africans, because they're supposed to be leaders in society. You don't stand up in Parliament and misbehave the way you do and throw water bottles at each other. You can do that in a taxi rank. You should not be doing that in a government legislature.
Apparently they are filing a court case.
Yeah.
Now, does it make sense to do that? From another politician overseeing what's going on, not from a political party point of view.
It was always their plan
to
try and frustrate the process. And I mean, we all knew that ultimately they're going to end up in court anyway. I'd like to see which judge is going to agree that they must continue behaving in that fashion. But that's their business, and I want us to focus on actually building a better city.
So basically, you're saying the motion of no confidence and genuine attempt to change leadership. Was it a genuine attempt to change leadership, or just a political statement they made?
No, it was a political statement. They knew they were not going to win it anyway. And let's look at the facts. I mean, at a national level, the GNU is performing certainly much better than when the ANC was in power. It's a fact. Investor confidence is higher. The Rand is doing much better. More people are getting jobs. So we're moving in the right direction since the GNU was formed. At a provincial level, the GPU has also delivered. I mean, you have Francois Rogers, who is now the MEC of Finance. He's running an extremely tight ship. It takes no nonsense from anybody. And he's turned the finance department around. I mean, he's saving money like you wouldn't believe, making sure that people use the money for the intended purposes. Public Works Department, Martin Mayer, for example, is the MEC, also doing an amazing job, putting an end to the building mafia that used to be running construction mafia and all of those things. So they are working really hard to turn the ship around at a provincial level. And so there are elements within our society actually who want to fight back against the good governance. That's what's going on. Because remember that there are people who survive on poor governance. So in Etigweni municipality, for example, the reason why things are falling apart is because there are people who are enjoying the benefits of corruption and good and bad governance. And you're going to get those guys fighting back when the good guys take over and try to direct the city in the right direction.
Exactly. So incidents like these affect public trust in politics, especially in KZN, when you think about it. The public trust is not there. How can political parties pursue their objectives without paralyzing governance or harming the public?
I don't understand. Just explain what you mean.
Well, when you think about KZN, right, you're a political party and you pursuing a certain objective, but in that process you're paralyzing governance, you're destroying things, you're burning things, there's riots going on. Do they realize that they are harming the public, because we spoke about jobs were lost at the last riots in KZN. There were massive companies which never opened. Big companies. They just decided not to bring it back into KZN. Yeah. So do they really think about it?
Well, I mean, I think that some of these political parties have their own agendas about what is it that they want to try and achieve. Perhaps they have their own personal interests, So it depends entirely on what is their vision on what they want to build. Some people are builders and others are going to be breakers, and that's how things work in society, I guess.
Yeah. We just have our guest who arrived in studio, thank you for making it. I believe we have Brother Abdul Valodia, the chair for United for Palestine, the president, and we have one of our well-known political leaders, activists, someone who is still making such a big difference, Samuel Kennedy, now a political analyst. Welcome to News in Focus.
Thank you, Sumaya, and good evening, Hanif. Long time. I think the last time I saw you is 2021.
Yeah, and you
haven't so we meet again. But sorry for being, it's a nice English word called delayed or deferred, deferred by design. We actually just traveled probably about 200 kilometers, but apologies in that regard.
Well, you are here. Let's go a little bit back. Key issues on the Madlanga report in the interim. What's going on in that whole aspect?
I think I think South Africa is caught up in a quandrum, if not probably a better word to call a conundrum. And the conundrum is that the country has lost focus politically, and the political dynamic is impacting the social dynamic and the economic dynamic. I think you've probably heard Hanif articulate his view on what he's contextualized from a national perspective. He's contextualized it into a local government perspective. Crime is rampant, and so I listened to the Nkabinde. So it's just not just the Madlanga Commission. There's the Nkabinde Commission, which is a commission that was called by Advocate Batui. The Madlanga Commission is another commission also called to deal with the issue raised by Lieutenant General Mkwanazi Shamase. And we've had the Zondo Commission, we've had a multiplicity of commissions. We've had one with Mbeki, we had one with Mpofu and Ramaphosa, which was the Marikana Commission. And the commissions are endless. We should be, as political commentators, the last to actually make an opinion. The guys who should actually have an opinion are the guys in the GNU. They should know more about, because they sit in cabinet. So whether we agree or we disagree, the fact of the matter is that government is no longer a hegemonic government. Hegemonic meaning a one-party system. It's a government which is a composition of the Democratic Alliance and the ANC, who by and large are the two dominant players in that government, or the two dominant players of the 2024 national and provincial elections. And so they I'm sure, have the capacity to say from a cabinet level, what actions are we're going to take?
Accountability.
Absolutely. And to me, I think the days of holding the ANC to account have have fallen by the wayside. The nice thing about politics now is we have the ability to hold the Democratic Alliance, the Patriotic Alliance, and the ANC, and the UDM. So we're not just identifying one political party. We can hold them all to account and say, colleagues, patriots, you guys are responsible for the running of this government. What do we do? For example, the issues articulated by Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi are real. Matlala has come out, he's made statements on his own. Brown Mokhosi has made statements on his own. There's a contradiction of statements, there's conflictions, it's like a circus of inquiry.
And how long do you think this is going to drag on? Or is it just going to drag on and be swept under the carpet?
Well, legally, and I'm sure Hanif will agree with me, legally, I mean, he spent more time in Parliament than most of us, or all of us in the room here. Legally, terms of reference of inquiries set up by the president normally have a time frame jurisdiction. So in terms of who can be called, is it inquisitorial? It's certainly not prosecutorial. So inquiries are not prosecutorial, meaning that nobody in that commission can prosecute. It's the outcome of the inquiry that determines whether they should be prosecutorial. Okay. Secondly, and Hanif will agree, the terms of reference will always have a time frame, because you never know when you start an inquiry whether you're going to finish it in 3. They'll then determine as cabinet, in terms of the constitution, what should be the next course of action. So it'll obviously be a legal process. But what will definitely happen is some heads will roll. I don't think enough heads will roll. 2, I think the biggest weakness of this inquiry is the death of a person.
Exactly, the whistleblowers.
The whistleblowers. And so allow me to say to my friend who has aspirations on wanting to be the mayor, that I think all government needs to be able to account for that. What we're not going to accept is when people say, but the portfolio of justice and constitutional development is a portfolio is in the under the ANC, and we're not responsible for that. Cabinet is responsible for all of the actions of government. 2, it cannot be of being able to find a nice combination. And part of the solution, Sumaya, to that combination is up until 1990, the release of Nelson Mandela, we had this huge monolith or juggernaut of class of people, and I hate using the word class, but nonetheless, I'll say it, who for political reasons were left behind economically and educationally. So we've had semi-literacy, semi-numerate, and in most cases illiteracy and numeracy, low levels of numeracy. Now, I listened to Hanif. Excellent presentation, and I'll give him, I nearly said 9 out of 10, but I'll give him 6. My apologies. You did very well. You did very well. And I think he has good aspirations. And I think all political leaders have these wonderful ideas. And I think, one must compliment them for that, because at least somebody's coming with some positivity to a very dire, bleak, sad situation. The problem, as Hanif knows, and the problem that government Hanif knows about government, having been an ex-MP, there's no money. And that is the biggest problem.
Well, he says there is money.
There's 72 billion rand in the city that's not being used properly. The problem is not the $200 million rand worth of tenders and contracts. Something's wrong with that picture.
No, I agree with you on that.
When you have a city that spends 22 million rand on statues on the beachfront, when our water and sanitation infrastructure is falling apart, there's something wrong with that picture. When you have a city that cannot collect 40 billion rand worth of money that's outstanding, there's something wrong with that picture. And I'll keep going on and on and on to tell you the picture of the city, that things are falling apart.
Would you mind me saying to you as a brother, because we're patriots together?
So. No, I agree with you on many things. I just didn't want to leave you to get off so easily with the
As you know, I'm sure. In fact, if I last recall, apart from having that debate at the hall across the road there, I was through the federal chair, Helen Ziller, if you remember, I was leading the minority party groups, trying to get rid of the ANC in the city of Durban, 2021, and we were 99% there. Until they switched the lights off at the stadium. But be that as it may, the issue I have, and I remember very clearly in my mind, that the DA had the second largest number of councillors, if I recall. I think that's still the case. And so they sit on EXCO. So, and I had a long chat here with Tabani Tatwa Nyambwas. Good guy, we get on very well. And the question I posed to him, and is the same question I'll pose again, is that the DA are very good administratively in terms of how they manage things. And it would be hard for me, or it would be a miss if I say that what Hanif is saying is not true, because he's looking at it from a different perspective. Like an accountant, you can put 10 accountants in one room And I've interviewed them, I've interviewed CAs, and you could come out with the one who comes up with a complete different dynamic of how to handle a budget. So there, I don't have a problem with that. What I do have a problem with is, for example, the consistent issues because there's a lot of good things that the DA does. I mean, there's no local government level. I just got to look at Tongat, and Hanif's made some excellent points on the water infrastructure and the lack of water and the 3 billion rands worth of wastage. But the DA hasn't been, Hanif's the only one, and with respect to everybody else, that's actually, since he's been nominated as the mayoral candidate, that's actually been as effective vocally on the issues of eThekwini. And I'm saying to him, therefore, it would be prudent as a suggestion that going forward, and I'm hoping you do well. I mean, it would be amiss for me as a Durbanite to say I don't want anybody to turn Durban around. I would be stupid to do that. Yeah. So I'm hoping anybody who puts their hat in the ring, like Hanif, can do the things that they say are part of their manifesto. I'm just saying to Hanif, brother, make sure that the team you surround yourself with, because right now it's lacking.
Look, I mean, you know, I don't want to give you a politician's answer. I would rather tell you the truth than what's in my mind and in my heart. The truth of the matter is that we're not a perfect team of guys. And we must try and do better. And where we're not performing as well as the public expects of us, we mustn't become defensive about it. We must try and make things work better. And we certainly do try. And I appreciate your honesty and your openness and your comments. It's not always possible to get it 100% right, but we certainly do try. What we don't do is to behave like the ruling party who misuses the public's money. And our responsibility place around. And what I can but I raised my hand to do this job not because I'm looking for a job. It's because I love this place. Yeah, I've lived here all my life, and it's the most beautiful city in the world, I believe. It has the most amount of potential. And we will always have to be surrounding ourselves with the best possible people. And where we don't get it right, we must have the courage to say to South Africans that we can actually do better. I think people are tired of defensive lies, if I can put it to you that way. And people expect honesty from their leaders. And South Africans are very forgiving if you own up to your mistakes, as opposed to defending the indefensible. And so I get it every day from the public that we can do better in Ward X, or we can get a better councillor in Ward Y, or whichever the ward is. And my standard response to people is that we must try harder. Because if we don't try harder to satisfy people, then what's the point in them actually wanting to vote for a political party?
Well, Hanif said it earlier on. I told him you're not talking from a political point of view, from a party, but as a citizen. It's so important that your vote counts and you need to vote. So if you want to make change. And I even told listeners that they need to vote, but they choose their political party. So I told Hanif, we are not hogwashing or encouraging anyone to vote. Because right now, no one votes. They're disillusioned. They feel it doesn't carry any weight. Corruption is normalized. We accept the fact of everything that's happening in our country, which is not good.
Can I say the following? You know, You know, there's an old expression which says to err is human, correct? The problem is when you over err, you're no longer human. The challenge we have, and I'll use this analogy again. 94, we brought this huge juggernaut of people that were either, and remember, South Africa was geared towards a protected local economy. Two things happened. We joined the WTO, one of them amongst many. We joined the United Nations. Anybody who understands the WTO, I've studied economics, so I know what I'm talking about, it's a club formed, it's called the Circle of Rome. Okay? It's, apart from it being globalistic, it's monopolistic, it's hegemonistic, right? One cap fits all. So what happened? Importation flooded this country to the detriment of that monolith of semi-literate, semi-numerate, illiterate, innumerate, which Hanif's not talking about. Now there's the DA. In fact, we can talk about it till the cows come home. The ANC failed in that regard. They failed. Like Hanif, I was retired. I did my stint. The reason why people are not voting, and it's no secret, they don't see anything in any political party. That is why the voter turnout is sitting on average, Hanif, correct me if I'm wrong, but in the 40s.
Yeah, it depends on election by election. But
I'm saying generally.
But the point is that people seem to have been given up.
It's called indifference.
Yeah.
So people are indifferent. They're not inspired. They feel politics is mundane. And the reason for the mundaneness is that at pre-election they say X. And I'll give you an example. A very, very true example. Pre-election, and I had a debate with Action SA. They said, we will never, and I listened to Mashaba, we will never, capital N, have a coalition with the ANC. He's in coalition with the ANC in Pretoria.
Yeah.
John Steenhuisen said, we will never, ever have a relationship with the African National Congress. It's either them or nothing, and anything apart from them, sorry. And they'll tell you for political expediency, and I'm not knocking them for that. I'm just giving an opinion, that people hang on to what people say, and then it doesn't materialize. Where I do agree with Helen Zille, to a point, is that when you have an over multiplication or multiplicity of political parties, it tends to hazy the water. So in other words, where your opposition could have been more effective, you're literally weakening it. And so if you read an article, I'm sure Hanif's read it, that I put out it in Phoenix some weeks ago, through some of these platforms called BBC. I was asked to do an op-ed on what my feeling is. And my feeling very simply is you need to whittle your vote down to between 3 and 10 parties, max. Because South Africa is a pluralistic political landscape. When you start getting to 27, 57, and 47, or whatever the case may be, all you're doing is the bulk of those people don't primarily come from the ruling party. Not that they're ruling anymore. And so all that happens is one-seat parties, and we've seen it because Hanif, I mean, we were there together in 2021.
Yep.
We put a coalition together, and a day later, brown envelopes killed it.
That's correct.
Right? So from 27 parties, 27 seats to be honest, we ended up with about 8 It was Action SA, which was 3, because the one who was the leader had already jumped.
Yeah.
With Mavundla. And by the time we ended up, Viswan Reddy had jumped, all of them, we could count them.
Yeah.
So the point I'm making is we need to, and I appreciate Hanif, you need to do more of it. I think you talk from your heart. The challenge you've got is putting your heart into action. Come 2026. So yes, for the first time since 1990, the ANC will no longer be running Durban as a city or eThekwini as a metro. That is a massive quantum. It's a paradigm. It's never happened in the history of this country. It's going to happen now. 2026, Durban will have a complete new governance led, in my view, and on the 5 years on this show, I've been 100% on every view. Whether it'll be run with a DA-led alliance is another matter on its own, but it certainly won't be led by an ANC alliance. So what will be the outcome? It's going to be between a democratic alliance-led coalition, of which Hanif will be the leader. And I'm saying it in advance. We're colleagues. We got no issues against each other. Or on the flip side, it'll certainly be led by an MK-led alliance. There's only 2 factors in Durban. It's only 2 factors. You can stand in your head. I'm fairly well educated. I know this space. I've been in politics since 1980. I'm one of the founding delegates of COSATU. I fought the struggle. I don't talk politics like I dropped off a bus yesterday. I know what I'm talking about. The Mkhonto weSizwe party is going to be a massive game changer. However, it's going to be at the expense of the African National Congress, but there's going to be some new entrants. And I think we've seen the political space changing. We've now got, the IFPs come back very strongly. I know them very well. They're very good friends of mine. But I think you've got Maibuya, whatever they're called. They're also coming in. There are 1 or 2 parties that are merging with others. So there's some good work for Hanif. That as a suggestion, as a brother, because we're brothers and colleagues and patriots at the same time, I'm saying to him, the net should also now be about bringing others into the equation, his equation, because not one party is going to win. It's going to be a composition like we had in 2021. But the only difference this time is that there's not going to be a need for brown envelopes, because either or will have sufficient ability to hold 50 plus 1. That's all I'm saying.
So 2026, we are looking very forward. We'll definitely have you in studio again, and we're not going to bet on it. But what you say, we're going to take your word, because you explained it from a political point of view. And most probably, because KZN is very unique, a very unique province in South Africa. Would you say that?
I think Gauteng is a bit more cosmopolitan, and I'm sure Hanif will agree. And I'll tell you why. Because if you look at the demographics of Gauteng, KZN has 2 dominances. One, it's plus 68% African, which is a huge majority.
Yeah.
Durban is over 22% of Indian origin. So it's got 2 dynamics. And we know, I mean, it's fact, that like the Western Cape, the colored community, by and large, keep the DA breathing. I mean, Hanif can say what he likes, but that's a fact. You take the colored out of the equation, there's no DA. 55% of the Western Cape is colored. And the DA is very strong, not pretty strong, super strong. Durban, Indian folk are the majority in terms of minority group. They're 22%. And if you look at all Indian colored areas, they've always been Democratic Alliance National Party. I mean, when we were fighting the Nats, that was one of our biggest challenges, that our own people were voting either, they weren't voting DP, they were voting NP, but not voting ANC. So I'm saying we can't tell people how to vote and where to vote and when to vote, but what we can say is vote for justice, vote for progression, vote for, I speak so much Zulu that sometimes I can't even translate myself. Vote for economic development. You want to vote for better municipal services because we're talking local government. You want to talk of reduction of utilities, utility costs. Like Hanif has used an example of 3 billion rands. I mean, it's a huge amount of money. 3 billion divided by 72 or 70 gives you quite a big number, nearly 5%. So even though I'm not that smart, but nonetheless, I think I can count. People need what I said in 2021, a return for their buck. In other words, when they go into the rates office, when they go into the electricity bill office, Sizagala, whatever you want to call it, they don't want to go in there with a grudge. Because that's what's happening at the moment.
Exactly.
They're going in with a grudge. They hate what they're doing. They hate the people that are delivering it. What they forget is that not everybody in eThekwini is an ANC member. So you could go in there and cause a fight, and you're fighting with the wrong person. He probably is on your side. Because you can't assume that just because everybody works for eThekwini, that they all support the ANC. They don't. There's a lot of IFP members there. There's a lot of DA members there, right? So we need to say to ratepayers and to residents or those who are paying municipal services, not everybody is your nemesis.
Yeah.
Everybody is there to help. Maybe not all, but there are those, like the police services, that are prepared to go beyond the call of duty and do what's best in the interests of you, the citizen of Durban. We're saying, as political commentators, because that's what we are, we're saying, this is what I want to say to Hanif. One, we don't want to hear that 2 billion rand was being spent in Kwamashu and Amlazi. Nothing wrong with that. And 500,000 rand spent in Phoenix. And we're not comparing apples with apples, because generally, geographically, they're not far apart in terms of size. In terms of demographics, they're also not that apart in terms of size. So we want to see that level of equality coming in, where we're saying, if we're spending 1 rand in Amlazi, when we're spending 1 rand in Overport, we're spending 1 rand in Phoenix, so that people are getting a fair share. 2, we're saying, if water is going to be the ticket or the punting point of the Democratic Alliance, it's a very good point. We can't knock them for that. At least they're coming up with a solution.
Yeah.
So we want to see other parties come up with different other solutions. 3, we're saying, if MK is going to be your biggest factor, then Hanif must tell us, How are we going to deal with MK? We're presupposing, should MK be the deciding factor? We're hoping they aren't, but we're certainly not punting the DA, because we can't punt any individual. But we're saying what we want for Durbanites is, you know what the nice thing in politics is? No winner.
Yeah.
You know why when there's no winner? It's called there's no political hegemony. There's no cadre development. And Hanif will agree with everything I'm saying. You might only not agree with the fact that I'm saying that there shouldn't be one winner.
may I say something on
Yes,
that?
sir.
And I think, look, your assessment is not incorrect. The truth of the matter is that there's going to be one of two options, and I said this in your absence, that it's either going to be an MK government or a DA government. But it's up to the voters to decide what type of government they want. And so I'm glad you raised this, because I want us to get beyond 50%. And that's not a political aspiration. It is about getting the change done as quickly as possible. Because when you're in a coalition government, you have partners to satisfy. And so you have to do horse trading and cutting deals and all sorts of things. And that slows down the pace of delivery. What I want us to be able to achieve is to have the full power and the authority to be able to effect change quickly. Fix the water system, fix the sewer, not have to bargain. And I take your point about a rand spent in Umlazi must be equal to a rand spent in Phoenix. But I can agree with that politically, to be politically correct. But I'll be misleading you and misleading the public and lying to myself. The truth of the matter is that if you want to run a city, you have to put the money where the need is the greatest.
Agreed.
Because if the pipe is leaking in Phoenix, it must be repaired. If the pipe is leaking in Umlazi, it has to be repaired. And the way you run a city is you're going to have to do two things. You have to maintain what you have before you build new infrastructure. You have to do both. So if you adopt the attitude about equality of allocation, you won't necessarily be applying the correct principle. I think the correct principle to apply is to invest the money where the need is the greatest. I'll give you an example. I haven't come across a South African who says we want to see more informal settlements in our city. I haven't come across a single person. On the contrary, we complain about it. Because an informal settlement in Overport doesn't affect only the people in Overport. It affects the people of the city. Apart from it being a dignity issue, if you look at it from an economic perspective, it doesn't inspire confidence with investors when you have a growing number of informal settlements. And that is a priority that needs to be dealt with. Because it has a knock-on effect on so many other things. Property values, new investments. Nobody wants to put up an 80-story building on the back end of an informal settlement. And so the response and the investments and your change.
We will still want more and more. So we will be waiting for 2026.
Can I just close on this? Pardon me. And just so I can correct, just to qualify or amplify what I meant by a rand spent and a rand spent. I was talking about new infrastructure. So in other words, I know that 2 billion was spent in Kwamashu and nothing was spent in Newlands East. I know that in terms of new projects. That's all I was saying. Two, I think Sumaya, and I'm saying to the DA now, not in a bad way to my good friend Hanif. I'm saying, brother, you're now in government until 2029. use that, and you know the dynamics of being an MP. All the hard work. There's absolutely, and I respect the Minister of Energy, or Electricity, Khoinse, or Sputla we call him. He's certainly proven his worth, no two ways about it. I mean, he's probably the most underrated minister who's never given any recognition. He hardly even gets a limelight. But he's done what most ministers have failed to do, get electricity where it is today. Right? In fact, for the first time in many years, Eskom's now making a profit. We want you guys to go back as GNU, GPU, and now going to be LPU. In quotes, local gov LGU. Get water and electricity prices down. Stop over, this overrating people is a problem. I mean, if you read the statistics, Durban is by far on food the most expensive city in the country. On rates, it's the most expensive city in the country. It's just our people are just being squashed. And I'm saying as a human, because I think you've got that side to yourself, which I think you do pretty well in, especially to the women voters, because they're the most emotional, the most sensitive to these type of things, because they do all the paying, they do all the costing, they run the homes. That's where the focus needs to be. If we can get them to come out of their houses and vote in numbers, then I'm pretty certain that your aspiration or vision will be a reality. It's got to get back to the empathy side of how do we walk what we talk, as opposed to what they've seen for 30 years of bullshit.
Well, gentlemen, as you said it, you got to walk the talk. So we'll be looking very forward 2026 local elections. The host, Mr. Sacoor, had an emergency meeting and he had to go. So Brother Hanif Hussein, the DA mayoral candidate for Durban, former MP and councillor, and Brother Samuel Kennedy, thank you so much, coming all the way, I think almost 3 hours away, but you made it in studio and we listened to you. And also the president of United for Palestine, Brother Abdul Valodia. We can continue this discussion, but unfortunately, we have to wrap the show.
Thank you.
As the holidays arrive, let's remember that, fun, relaxation, and exploration, and hand in hand with responsibility. Enjoy our beautiful country safely, whether you're traveling, visiting tourist spots, or just spending time with family. Stay alert on the road, and remember, News Focus is going to tell you, respect your infrastructure and keep your children safe. From me, Sumaya Khan, News in Focus. Assalamu alaikum.
Listen to News in Focus on Radio Al Ansar, Durban 90.4 and Petermarisburg 1.